halfway into the season of Season 9 of Alliance Conquest now. We're going into registration for the 4th match at the time of recording right now. And I thought there was maybe a bit of a gap in content at the moment for discussion around this stuff, so I thought I'd make a video doing a power rankings mid-season on where everyone shapes up in terms of going up against each other in AC, because I think this season, whilst I suspect there may be a runaway winner again, like we saw in the days of Run previously before last season where Mad got it, I think there are at least brackets within the same time slots which are insanely competitive, and I do think it's it's an interesting thing to discuss and think and talk about, right? So, what should we do? Alliance Conquest power rankings, or mid-season power rankings. Season 9. So I think there is a runaway winner this season. It seems a bit inevitable to me, and that will probably be ATD. They're in the Super League now. I think they won the B League last season, but they just have the most max accounts in the game. It's like we saw with Run before. They can fill rallies with full level 60 Sapphires. All these max accounts have full Legion skills and they're secondary dragons, and that makes just rallies in general from them basically impossible to defend. Like I saw this video, for example, credit to Christian Orr here. These are Rise against Peace Down, which is a true max account, and they basically, there was no opportunity to reinforce there really. I mean, the reinforcing wasn't great, I'd say. There's also, I think they rally Clarasma too, and again, it's just, if you're winning rallies like this against accounts like Peace Town and Clarasma, that basically means no one in the entire game can hold a location against you. So you'll have to keep pace with them, and that basically means you're consistently going to have to rally locations off max accounts, just like they did here, which I don't think anyone in the entire game except them is actually set up to be able to do. I also suspect of them, and this is kind of presumptive, I could see all the whales that want the UC win to go to ATD before UC starts, like we've seen before with Mad last season, Run the season before. Because the main competition at the top, I think, is very settled in their alliance. Like BDR and M3O don't like doing huge turnovers in terms of their lower members. Accounts down here, BDR have stuck with for a very long time, and I can't see them just booing them out for whales basically. But ATD, they are the whale alliance, I think. They could get in this bottom at least 6 more mega whales in there fairly easily, right? So I don't think anyone will be able to compete with ATD, to be honest. They're getting 90 plus members in events too, 93 here. I just don't think anyone will be able to compete with them realistically. They have too many strong accounts, and their rally timing, on their port, it was not the best example, but on these rallies on Castly, that's decent enough timing. It's not perfect, but it went. When you have that many death rallies, it's good enough, right? And they also have the amount of spenders they have. They'll be happy to blow bugles if they need to correct stuff and all that jazz. So ATD is my firm number 1. At 2, I think this is maybe a joint spot between BDR and M3O. I went in thinking M3O would honestly maybe be the clear number 2 I thought the accounts they brought in just took them a level up, because BDR stayed pretty similar. Like, it's pretty much just the same alliance, right? They haven't brought much in. I'm not sure Alice was there last season. Other than that, there's no like huge rally leads that came in, right? It's still mostly the same alliance. Whereas with M3O, they brought in a lot of big accounts. Like Phil came in, he was a mad last AC, I think, Full Gold Glorious. You go down and there's what is there? SC, this account I think is just a normal account, but if you go down and find Baby SC, this is the Death Duel account, which, yeah, ridiculous account. And they have maybe 7 accounts from CTP, maybe a few more. When CTP dissolved, the CTP situation probably does affect this list quite a lot, actually. So CTP split, and I think generally they're players which, this is a huge oversimplification, but you can look at it from an outsider perspective as their top accounts which struggled to attend 1900 events. Maybe we're in an NA time zone. Their top rally leaders under those criteria went to FDH, the likes of Bad Moon up here, Asterix, obviously, who is massive, Dokeness here, Napoleon. They ended up in FDH, and then their players which were comfortable with 1900 mostly went to M3O and us, actually. And I think those that were good with 1300 went to WTP, and then some more split elsewhere across from that. But FDH, M3O, us and Reese, and WTP all benefited quite heavily from CTP dissolving in that sense. RAM and some other alliances too did as well, but they're maybe not as relevant in terms of the UC discussion, at least. Or RAM, yeah, I knew they were high up. They've been doing very well, winning a lot of games. Like some Liquid in there from CTP at the moment. Yeah, M3O gained more rally leads from that, so the likes of Strike, Queen of Sin, James Delaney, Drakenyan here. I think there's one more. Oh yeah, Quadesh, of course. There he is. They're huge accounts. Even if they're not rally leading, they'll have massive dragons. Like Fat Boys is in here too. His dragon is stacked as hell, just reinforcing rallies with that or locations. That is huge for them. So M3O, like doing M3O things, a lot of thick accounts, but maybe not the max accounts that can compete with the ATDs of the world. But they have grown a lot in comparison to BDR, I'd say. But they did match, I think, in the second match of the season, and BDR did narrowly win. And because of that, I think they have to go in the same tier here. Didn't even put ATD down, damn. So I'm going to do M3O equals BDR, because I think that we have to wait and see. Because clearly BDR have it in them to still win. And now it's up to them to prove, I guess, that they can do that consistently. They should. I think match... I was already in the screen, what am I doing? After this series of matches, they should match in the 5th match at 1900, because it'll be BDR against SPL and then M3O against HOH, and HOH and SPL stand no chance. There's no shame in that. None of the other 1900 alliances like us or NW1 do either, really. We just don't have the whales for it. Then below that, you start moving into the bracket outside of 1900, I'd say. So this is kind of hard to distinguish, I'd say. FDH are always very hard to evaluate because they just don't play anyone in the regular season, and that makes it really awkward to tell where they are, because you can't see where they're at with coordination and stuff. Like last GC, they were really strong in it, but they had the OGS accounts in, and I think they helped bring new systems to them. I'm assuming some of that stuck, but I just don't know, and I have no way of knowing because I don't have really any friends in FDH, I don't have an account in FDH, and there's no videos to watch of them, of course. I do know Altizio and the likes of Dr. Lovegood are full bow at the moment. I'm assuming they have to do that in AC too, because like Dr. Lovegood had 320% bow health and refinement, so I'm assuming he has to be sending bow rallies in AC. I'm not sure how much that affects it, or how ideal it is, because in AC, if you're not getting the awkwardness of AC is if you get stuck on a location, like say if Dr. Lovegood gets stuck in Castle with his bow refinement, all the infantry and cav and spear that get sent to him will just be weaker as a result because of that. So even if he had full tier 4 bows in there, which maybe he does, maybe the Alliance has gone full bow, like I'm seeing a lot of Theon Lords in here, maybe that's just for Rebels, but if FDH have gone full bow, that could be interesting, I guess. I'm not sure if they have or not, but I would maybe have FDH as my third, or not fourth, fourth, because Emperor and BDR are tired. I think them being at 1 AM is a negative in terms of judging where they're at, but in terms of UC, which this isn't necessarily about, but I guess it has to come into play to an extent, because in terms of a power rankings, like they have no one to compete against at 1 AM, so I mean, how do you even judge them in that case? Like, in terms of competitiveness, they'll be one, because no one can compete against them at that time slot. But moving into UC, the fact they don't play anyone throughout the regular season is a positive, just because they'll save so many speed ups. And I don't think I truly realized the effect of this until like I've started to find myself in this situation now myself. But if you're in one of these, say, top 16 alliances, where if you don't make UC it is a failure and a problem, the amount of speed ups you end up using in these matches is just ridiculous and honestly sort of unsustainable. So in our match here against TBE, in our last one, like the elimination and healing rankings are just absurd. So I think Asimar here, I did the maths on this was like 33 million tier 4s, I think it was. 33 million. So in this match, I thought I healed a lot. Well, I did heal a lot. I healed at least 100 days. And we had Mother, I think, too. Like, pretty much all match. At least, I'd say, like 50 minutes of it, probably. But I wasn't even close to the top of the leaderboards in terms of healing. That really surprised me. I think someone else said it on voice as well. It was the video I made of this match, because I just thought it was funny. Because I felt the exact same way. So many speed ups, and then you look at the rankings, and it's like, oh my god. Everyone used absurd amounts. Absolutely everyone. And everyone in TB mostly did it without Mother too, and we did the same thing against NW1. We had no Mother all game. And we used so many speed ups. So many speed ups. So saving them, it really does help, and I do think that is an advantage for FDH, honestly. It is maybe a bit more boring for them, but in terms of going in ready to go all out in UC, that is a big help. After them, and you could honestly probably argue this should maybe be in the same as I did with M3O and BDR, where it should just be a bracket of 3 with equals, and it's let's see, because I do think they're probably about the same, and the thing that's edging FDH above for me is just that speed up saving. But after them, I'll have KSC equals WTP, and then we need to see which one of these is really better, because I'm not sure. And their issue in comparison to FTH is that they're in a similar situation to us, for example, where they're having competitive games, or will at least, where they'll burn a lot of speed ups. Like, I think I saw someone say Peace Down used 1,200 days speed ups in one of their matches so far, healing, which is mind-boggling. But they both have very, very similar rosters, I'd say. They have a lot of max or near max accounts, which are very strong. I mean, we saw how easily ATD dealt with them here, but if this was us and Reese, for example, against like Peace Down or Clarasma, we would have no shot at knocking them out of anything, probably. I'm not sure we could even really win many rallies, maybe with like full on counter into their front, and we land something good in that sense. We could win some, but definitely not enough to knock them out, I'd say. So KSC, they're quite similar to what they have been previously. I think a lot of people have gone into UC very, very high on them, and they've never quite lived up to it just because of coordination reasons. But they're still going all out. They're still so strong, and I think you have to give them their respect because of that. And then WTP, they're definitely on the up, and I'd maybe slightly edge them ahead of KSC in terms of where I'd consider them the two. They have CP and Mia as a backbone, of course, which they always do. But then I think, at least I heard, God of War down here bought the Savo accounts. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Either way, they're in WTP and being spent on, so I'm not sure I saved the report. Yeah, I didn't, but I got soloed by the Savo account in the KVK before last, and he had 4-star Baelish, which is thousands of dollars, so it's definitely being spent on there, unless he just had hundreds of legendary tokens sat there, which I guess is possible, but I'm pretty sure it's being spent on. So WTP just have that advantage of being able to stick those max or near max accounts into buildings. They also got a few accounts from the remnants of OGS, I think, who I thought at least mostly merged weirdly with IKW, and they tried to hide it. I don't really know what happened there. OGS doesn't exist anymore, and their accounts have been scattered a bit. I think Wind Wiper, for example, was one of those OGS accounts. You know, they just have a very strong group, right? But I don't think they have massive depth. Like past CP Mia, and then Hail to the King, which is the Savo account, God of Warlove, and Chaos. Unless I'm drastically missing something, they obviously have strong accounts, but what do they have which anything above them on the list is going to have problems knocking out? I'm not sure. Like Clyde, I guess. Clyde is very strong, him probably. But you're not going to be winning rallies against, you know, Freeze with Clyde probably, whereas you could with some of the other stuff. Well, you're not because of the Defender rally size, but you get my point. So I'd have them as the joint 5th seed, and then what have we got? 7th. 7th is probably above the bracket of the other 1900 alliances, just in terms of account strength. It's probably IKW. They've been getting over. I don't think they've played anyone yet this season. They dropped power for their first match to like 20 billion or something ridiculous, and have had walkover matches so far. But they've been getting over 90 participants in every match, and have a very, very strong group. Maybe some of it is still outdated, but like I said, the OGS dissolving does help them. So the likes of like this April O'Neil account and Cowabunga, these were OGS whales. I don't think there's a way I can prove this now. When it first happened, you could check through the battle and bravery tokens and find those of the OGS tags and track them through that. I think there was, I mean, they've got to be on this somewhere, but I think they probably have the updated IKW tags in here. And where are they? I know they're here. Was Hot Dog one of them? I mean, probably. Because I definitely remember seeing them in here. Yeah, no one with OGS tags that I can see. So you'll just have to believe me on that one. But a lot of the OGS accounts went to IKW. So they've bulked up a bit because of that, and from what we saw with FDH last season as well, they had coordination problems, and the OGS people really helped that. Maybe they could do that with IKW too. I don't know what nationalities the OGS people were, or those that came to IKW. I'm not sure if there's a language barrier there. Either way, it's a big bulking up of accounts. I do think, however, that they aren't like dramatically better than some of those immediately below them in this power rankings. I do think that there are realities where, but just the raw account strength, you can't deny, really, can you? Even if some of it is slightly bloated on troop power. I don't think it's as bad as it has been in the past, at least, looking through the list. Below them, the 8th seed. This is, in my opinion, the most interesting, but I'm obviously very biased. So I think there's a grouping of 1900 alliances which are insanely closely matched, which is, these are not in any particular order either. It's just what's going to come first to mind. So Reese, which is us, my alliance, and then NW1, TBE, and HOH. These four, I think, can all beat each other, and on any given day, depending on races or very, very small margins, like holding a location or losing it by one rally, can all win, can all lose against each other, against every single other person in here. This was, I mean, you can just look at my match history even and see this. I don't think HOH have played any of us three in this screen right here yet, but they will. I mean, they are strong, they're coordinated, and we'll have to see how they stack up. They will be coming into, I'd say, a very high bar that's been set in terms of quality of gameplay in these two matches. But they've also saved hundreds of days of heals as well by not competing in them, which does help because all of us are just broke, I think, after these matches. So many speed up spent. So here against TB, it was a tiny margin, just like 2,000 points. Neither us or TB could hold rallies against each other at all. We just traded and traded and traded just for like 55 minutes straight, basically. It just did not let up the entire match. It was maybe the funnest AC match I've ever played in, honestly. It was just crazy. And then NW1 probably feel the same as I feel about this TB match because they won, where it was insanely competitive, just trading back and forth, back and forth. We lost like every single race in this NW1 match. If we won a few more of them, I feel like the scoreline could have been just like TB's here, where it was 2,000 either way. Such small margins. Like, I think Lolly Ed in this one, Mother swapped off it, our Port swapped off it, Castley swapped off it, and then Stronghold, which is a big deal if you have a racer winning those free swap locations. and swapping off them consistently. But we could have beat NW1. I think NW1 know that, and we could also lose to them like 5 times in a row, and I think they know that too, because they almost got Odin into Castley on a swap, for example, and if they did, we would not have been able to knock him out whatsoever, but we just managed to intercept it, and there's such small margins like that which decided the match. And it was the exact same with TBE, such small margins that decided it. And I don't think, even when HOH get involved, there is much between us whatsoever. HOH are looking very good, and they put a lot of emphasis into AC from what I understand. They really, really like AC and really go all out for it. From things I've heard at least, in Siege of Winterfell, they don't put much emphasis on it, and don't go too deep because they want to be as strong as they can be for AC. Now we're here and they have that opportunity. I would maybe have the most questions about HOH in this group just because we haven't seen them in these crazy competitive matches, but I have played them before in AC. Their rally timing is great. They played TBE last UC and beat them twice, but now TBE is merged with ETA. They're a very different prospect. NW1 are very much a different prospect to ever before with their new accounts like Odin, and then like Andy Pandy, Coast, even going down. It's Sergio Brown, I think they got him from ATF. He was hitting rallies on us with 5.2 mil rally size. So very, very strong core of rally leaders in NW1. They probably have like, I don't know, 6 to 8 people with 5 mil or above rally size, maybe more actually. It's a very, very good group in this bracket at least. And they obviously have Odin, which no one on here can knock off anything. So that goes all the way to the 11th seed in that group, which means the next will be 12. Gets maybe a bit trickier after this. I think it was quite clear up to that point, maybe with a few debatable decisions, like maybe FDH should be in the same bracket as these two. I do see that point. And this, I think it's mostly, or maybe entirely 1900 alliances still. So down in the other leagues, I think we have everyone in Super League this time. I don't think there's anyone who could really be competitive outside of the Super League. Mad maybe. I'm not really sure what's happened with Mad. Where are they? For this season, they swapped to like an Alt Alliance for the first match, but now they're back in the main alliance. So I don't know what they're doing, but if you look down the Super League rankings, they have no way of getting into UC no matter what they do. I'm pretty sure, unless I am missing something very, very stupidly. I think that the Alt Alliance they have is maybe down here somewhere, near here. But even if they won 3 matches in a row, they wouldn't get to even in this alliance right now. So they're out of it. They would have been probably in this bracket too, where we would all be able to beat each other still. But in this bracket, I think it's probably OBV and SPL together. So that might be surprising to some. So I think a lot of people are probably very high on RUI, or a bit higher than I am personally. TOC here, they're in one of the lower leagues. So if you just go on straight power, maybe RUI should be a bit ahead of OBV and SPL. But both of these are getting over 90 in events every single time. SPL maybe have got quite fortunate with their matchmaking so far, but they're in the 4th seed. OBV have lost a lot of their stronger rally leads, like the Death Note accounts are now in ATD. More reason that ATD is just ridiculous. You know, they have the top accounts up here, but then if you look down at like the Zero Castles, they have GSW, the Napoleon account with like Yagami, Death Note. Those accounts are just absurd, and they don't jump out at you on the list when you look through it because they don't have the crazy power numbers. But they're certainly there, and OBB have lost out because of that. They still have a very strong core group of rally leads. They've added some, like, what's this, Queen Freya, I think. Snake from CTP dissolving. He's a very strong account. And then you've got the Alatons, the Urix, how do you pronounce his name? Sharovsky? Is that correct? I don't know. It's best I'm gonna do. Crunchy, Riordan. That's a strong core of rally leads, but I do think they just don't have the depth of some of these others above them. Because like Reese can send 20 rallies with 4.5 mil rally size at this point. NW1, TB as well. There's so many above like 5 mil rally size. I'm not sure OBV have that depth. With Vin Mistborn, he's a very strong rally lead. I didn't actually notice he was in there. That's a very nice pickup for them. So OBV, they're decent. I'd be surprised if they miss out on UC, but it could happen in this at this level, because just one loss near the end can throw everything in the air. Just a bit of unlucky matchmaking. And SPL are always slept on, in my opinion, in events. They're so committed and go all out every single time, and they have gained some strong accounts too. They've actually gained, I think, Kara Jr. from OBV fairly recently, which is a big pickup for them. Down here, and you know that the fact they're an all-Polish alliance and they don't really, I guess, socialize outside of their circles because of that, means that they're underestimated a bit, but they are a very strong group, and I really wouldn't underestimate them in that sense. So I'll keep them there, and that's we got the 14th, 15th, and 16th seeds left. So I guess I can do it like that, and maybe go all the way up as well. 8, 9, 10, 11, 5, 6, 2, 3. This group can definitely be competitive up with these for sure, but maybe this group is a step too high at this point, even though they all play in 1900. So I'll say IUI, which maybe should be above these others. Now I think about it, yeah, I probably should actually do that. I'll do it like this. The reason these are below this bracket is, well, it's slightly varied for some of them. So IUI, they obviously have the top accounts. We match them. I can probably show that match. We disbanded at 80k, so the score is a bit closer than it actually was. You have Bezaming and Mr. X like going wild in the elimination points, obviously, but they just don't have the depth, I'd say, past the Bezaming, the Mr. X, the Kiniston, and then maybe just those three, honestly. Because I thought some accounts say Heatco were way stronger than they actually were. Unless Heatco came in like, I don't know, Mountain Clan gear somehow. But we managed to knock Heatco off Mother very easily, and I'm not sure he's been spent on recently. And like, maybe he just didn't come in with PvP gear or something, because his stats were way lower than I expected. But even if we're including him and like D-Zona, you've got the top group of accounts of maybe 6. Past that though, there just isn't much else that can be competitive with most of the names above them at least. So if you have Beziming stuck on a building, he has to disband. Because if Beziming isn't going beyond wild, RUI can't do anything. And that is a big, big problem for them. He can, however, I think brute force them to victories. Like obviously, 1.6 billion elimination points is quite the pace to keep up with. Like even just thinking about that is absurd to me. You'll heal forever. I mean, what is my all-time elimination points? Not even. So he did over a quarter of my all-time AC elims in one match against us. And I guess it's season 8. I've played every single AC match ever. So he goes deep. He goes deep in those matches, and he can definitely carry them to wins through that. But there is a limit to what one person can do in AC, and they can't really break 80 participants against this bracket. I'm not sure about HOH at the moment, but like us and NW1 for sure are getting over 95 guaranteed. TV over 90 every time. Pretty much everyone above this getting over 90. OBV and SPL also getting over 90. HOH will be around that, if not above that too. So they are lacking in terms of reinforcers, of filling rallies and reinforcing locations because of that. But I think Beziming being able to brute force puts them maybe just a step above these two. Ash are in a tricky period, I'd say, because as far as I know, Yogurain quit, and his account is currently being piloted, but that is a huge leadership void. They're struggling to get 80 participants to an events. Ash were always very, very strong in regards to that. They were always very good at beating people through a group effort, and when you don't have numbers advantages, that becomes very, very difficult. And just like RUI, I'd say that they don't really have the depth of rally leads at the moment with their current roster. That they have a decent group, but past 6 names, it really, really does drop off, and that's just a problem for them. That's the reality of it. I like them, but that is how it is right now. And then GGS, maybe GGS should maybe in the current situation go above Ash, honestly. But they've never massively impressed me in AC before with timings or coordination. And again, like the other 2 names in this little bracket, their depth of rally leads I think is a bit weaker than everything above them. That they have some of the top accounts, like Donabar and Negative Man. But there is some troop fat here in the higher rankings, like they're all on K3. They can mash troop build as much as they want and still be pretty safe. And I don't think they'll be able to keep up with this bracket for sure, because this bracket is such a high standard of participants and therefore reinforcers and coordination, and maybe not heights of rally leading but depth of it. I'm not sure GGS could send 15 rally leaders with 4.5 mil rally size at a location and just guaranteed win and just trade for 50 minutes on locations. I'm not sure they have the group to do that, but admittedly I don't know them very well, so I might be underestimating them. That is possible. But I think this is my top 16. I probably don't need to go much further than that, because that is the UC bracketing. That won't be the top 16 for sure. There will always be 1 or 2 surprises just via matchmaking. Like if, just as an example, Ash and GGS match in the last day in these seeds, obviously 1 won't make it and 1 will. That's just how the system works. So we will see some sneak in. Like Ram have been very, very good this season. I think seeing their match against GCM was quite impressive. NOS are always in around there at the top. And then there are a lot of like 50 mil plus alliances here, which with a bit of luck, with a 6-match season, can definitely get in. I think RIP as well. They almost beat Ash in their last match, which is very impressive, honestly. And if they can just string a few wins together at these lower seeds right now, I have no idea where they are. They could definitely sneak in. I think we've seen them sneak in before, but they dropped power quite hard to do that, and they can't do that now. They have to string wins together, right? Or Tough might sneak in. I think they play 1900 server time events. They're not playing 7 AM anymore. I guess not. That's interesting. Maybe they can recruit better at that time. Maybe they'll be able to become a bit more competitive through that. If they were playing 7 AM though, they, I assume, would get into UC with that, just because no one else is playing 7 AM at the moment, as far as I know. But I don't think they'd be able to beat anyone on this list. But I guess the Diver and Rytanics of the world won't be going to Mad this UC, because Mad won't be making it, so that would be interesting actually. If Tough make it and then Mad go to Tough themselves, that would be a change of events. That they won't be able to beat any in this top bracket either way. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's my list. Tell me in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything. I'm sure there'll be plenty of differing opinions on this. It's very, very subjective. If I've been too high or too low on anyone. But this is where I am at personally at this point in the season. In 3 matches in at the time of recording. And we'll just have to see how it evolves from here. See who can separate themselves in these brackets specifically, probably, and then going into UC, see who will recruit best for it, because obviously the landscape right now will be thrown in its head going into UC with turnover and changes in the Alliance of Wales, but we can't forecast that yet until it happens. I'm sure I'll do another video when it does happen and go over everything then as well. Until then.